Hello, hello, my Soulpreneur Life family and friends. How are y'all doing today? I'm going to give you guys a second to log on and speak and say hello. I have just shared in our community group chat week 2 journal prompts. So I'm really excited for y'all to get into that, to dive deeper into the journal prompt. And I know it's multiple questions, but I want you guys to get into the habit of asking more questions. So sometimes we have like a surface level question, and then as we start to uncover things, really tapping into the power of asking additional follow-up questions that can lead you to the root of the thing, whatever the thing is for you, right? And don't be afraid to do that. And for some people, journaling is voice clipping, and some people it's actually writing it down, right? Or typing it out. I think that there's a lot of power and release when we do it on pen and paper, or we do it through our voice. So whatever feels right for you, go ahead and do that. But I wanted to, hold on, let me see if I can multitask with this over here. I wanted to see how y'all are feeling. I think if I do about what is going on in your lives as this new year is coming up right now. I know that there's so much going on and so much noise for some people, as they've had a lot go on since 2020 up until the end of 2022 going into 2023. And, you know, with this new year being one that is really heavily reliant on that internal journey that we each go on, I just want to lend you guys some support if you're open to it, right? And I want to get back to sharing more master classes and things like that with you all in support of that, while juggling the stuff behind the scenes with the podcast and one-on-one clients and group programs and things like that. But allow me to just reintroduce myself, because I know our group has changed a lot. I've removed, oh my goodness, I think about 500 something members, and kind of refreshed the energy within the collective, especially after the hack attempt on my account. Oh my gosh, that was horrible. So there's a lot of people not seeing stuff, or telling me that they didn't see stuff, or they saw something, but then they couldn't do certain things with it, or whatever the case. So let me reintroduce myself to the new people, or to the people who are just now finding me. I'm Kendra. I am the founder of Soulpreneur Life LLC, and I have so much to share with you all. And I'm going to lean into the topic that we are going to kind of cover today. I wish more of y'all were on the live right now. Talking to myself at the moment, it feels kind of not as fun, but that's okay. So the stories that we tell ourselves and the stories that we tell others are very, very important. So when I introduce myself, I love to share with y'all, yes, I'm Kendra. I'm an Army veteran. I'm, insert all of the fancy titles and things like that, because we are ever evolving and ever changing. And I do not like the idea of being stagnant or not growing and evolving. But I also understand the importance of people having certain things spelled out for them so that they can understand it, right? Okay, so what does all of this mean? Well, the story that I tell when I share with others. So I got married at 18 after a childhood of bouncing from family to family. And that really, carved out the version of who I am today, because it led me down this path of growing up really, really fast and always being in survival mode. And I've said it before, where I didn't realize that there was anything outside of that. I didn't realize that some of the choices I made could have looked different, but I didn't see them as an option, because to me, it was survive. How do I survive? And then going through my Army career and going through my marriage and all of these other things, and the divorce and becoming a mom and just all of that, it put me to this point where everything just piled up so much. It was so much, like it was a bubble, or a balloon that was just getting bigger and bigger and bigger, until one day it finally popped. And I realized that we have to create space by letting certain things go, but also by feeling them. And I had become the master of manifestation with my words. but I was so toxic because I was holding on to so much of that. I was so negative that everything that I said was coming to fruition. It was coming to fruition, but I wasn't realizing it in the power of manifestation or the law of attraction or the law of increase or anything like that, right? To me, it was just like, oh my gosh, another red light. Oh my gosh, this just malfunctioned. Da, 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 da. And I was going through that cycle, and it led me to realize, like, I don't like who I am. I don't like being by myself. I don't like the version of myself that is so exhausted. Like, there was absolutely nothing left in my tank to share or give people. And I had done so much for so many others, but I was to this point where I only had a few people pouring back into me. And then I had shame and guilt and all these other big feelings like, oh, I don't want to take from them, even though I've given to them or I've loved on them and this and that. And this was the story that I was telling in my mind. This is the story that I felt in my body. So as I was going through this transition at this point from being on active duty for almost 9 years to transitioning and becoming a disabled Army veteran. I don't like that label, but that is what they labeled me. And then transitioning from being married that whole time, right, to now suddenly a disabled Army vet, a civilian. I no longer have that super high-speed soldier, all of my accolades, all of my awards, my communication shop and soldiers and deployments and all those things behind me. I had to figure out who I was in the civilian world, and what I was going to do while being a mom, while navigating a very heavy divorce, and how my thoughts, my feelings, the things that I wasn't saying were showing up as physical pain, and how the things that I was retelling about my divorce. Because, you know, when you go through huge life events, your sisters, your brothers, your cousins, your aunts, your uncles, they come through and they say, let me help you. And they want you to keep retelling the story of what's going on. They want to hear the drama. They want to hear the gossip. And at one point, when I just realized, the more I talk about this, the more I feel bad. And the person on the other end of the phone, yeah, they have the tea, they have the gossip, they have the know of what it is that they want to know. But then it takes me days to feel better again. It takes me days or weeks to get my mind and my energy back again as I'm trying to raise a kid and as I'm trying to numb the pain in my physical body and negotiating all of these things that I had been living and retelling myself and retelling others. And I felt out of control, and I didn't realize that I could press the brake at any point in time. And so I did. And for me, it started with sarcastic gratitude. If you can't tell, I'm a Capricorn, but it started with sarcastic gratitude, and it filtered into more. It filtered into the stepping stones that led me to where I am today, years later, right? So I'm sharing all of this because I know that many of you can relate to this. Many of you have been on discovery calls with me, right? I'm trying to slow down my speech. I'm a fast talker. So if I stutter on my words, that's probably what it is, because I'm like, slow down. I just get so excited sharing because I know that, like me, there's someone waiting in quiet desperation for something that you have to share. You just have to go through the process to get to the point to share it. So as I was transitioning through that, and I stopped telling the stories, and I made a lot of people upset because I started asking, what is the point in you asking me this question? What is the point in me retelling this painful story because it doesn't feel good for me? What is the point in you needing to know? And I didn't say it as kindly as I'm saying it right now, because I was hurt, I was toxic, I was in pain, and I was struggling for air. I was struggling to survive, and I didn't have anyone around me, not one person physically around me to help. I had ended my Army time while I was stationed in Alaska, and I didn't want to go back to North Carolina where the marital home was, because I had given up everything in the divorce and I just wanted my daughter. So we just left with what we had in Alaska, which everything else was in North Carolina. I gave up bank accounts, the house, just 14 years of a life. I just completely gave everything up. And the only thing I took away from that investment, that time, was my lovely little girl, my daughter. And I had no idea what I was doing, but I came down here to Texas. I bought a house and I started something brand new. And it was overwhelming. It was terrifying. It was exciting. It was a distraction. And it made me realize that whoever you believe in, for me, creator, God, source, had to put me in a place. I couldn't go back home to California where my sisters and family are, because they always treat me like that 13, 14-year-old little girl. And they have that standard of me, right? And it was really hard for me to wrap my mind around it, because I'm like, I've been to war, I've bought houses, I've taken care of millions of dollars worth of equipment. Like, I've done all of these things, but you still see me as that rebellious little girl. And that was hard for me. So coming to Texas was like a renewal. It was a renewal of my soul, of understanding who I was. Because again, like I said, I had been in this story, this narrative of survival for so long that I forgot to even figure out who I was. And, you know, the moment that I remember, I was cooking my daughter dinner in our new house. We didn't even have a kitchen table yet, but I had the little Elsa little kid toddler table, and I was getting her plate ready and I was putting all the food on it. And I just looked at it and I realized I had made the meal exactly how my ex-husband enjoyed it. It was his favorite meal, but it was something I had made so often for him for years, for our family, that I had done it without even realizing, like, do I even like this? Do I even want this? So as I'm making her plate, it really just dawned on me that it was time to like just pause and reset. And I started questioning everything, everything. I was like, my favorite cars, I love American Muscle, but do I love American Muscle? I like football, but do I really like football, or is it because of my ex-husband and my uncle? Or, you know, I went down this rabbit hole and then tried to deconstruct, to rebuild and understand, like, yes, I do like that. Yes, that is my favorite snack. Yes, that is my favorite drink. And no, it's not because of these people or influences, because our caregivers have so much influence over us. And oftentimes our beliefs and our values, they don't get questioned in adulthood. And then that leads, for some people, it leads to a beautiful life. And for some people, it leads to them being crotchety and cranky and just miserable, right? They're not aligned with anything because they've been living off the blueprint that someone else created for them. So I'm sharing all of this because it's important for us to understand that it's not our fault, right? But it's an opportunity for us to explore who we are and who we are becoming. And I always say, we are living, breathing beings, and we are never supposed to remain the same. Who I am today is not who I was 5 years ago, 10 years ago. It's not who I was at 15, 14, 12, 5, right? But oftentimes our family puts us in this box and they label it little sister, little cousin, brother, cousin. I already said cousin twice, but father, mother, aunt, uncle, whatever the label. Rebellious, trouble, the black sheep, hard-headed, right? Whatever the label is, they put us in this box. And I'm sure that you have done it too, to someone, to some degree. And we think that this is the box of how I know them. And when they start to creep out of that box, or we start to creep out of the box that someone else has put us in, it challenges that relationship. And depending on where that other person is on the other side of that relationship, right, depends on how you move through it. And for some people, people are meant to be there for a season, and some people are meant to be there for life. It doesn't mean that they always have to be right there every single day of your life, but distance is required, and that's okay. They still love you and support you. But it's important for you to understand who you are so that you can speak more of that and attract more of that into your life. I know you've probably seen the meme or the quote, you can't heal in the same environment in which you got sick, or something to that degree, right? And that's really true, because the conversations that you have remain the same until you change them. But if you're in an environment that's like negative and heavy and has this expectation of you to be that label, right? That rebel, that troublemaker, that victim mindset person, or whatever it is, how are you going to escape that if you're in the same space? If you're recycling the same thoughts, the same conversations, the same feelings? It takes you to make the choice and to move away from those conversations, to move away from those ways of thinking, and to replace them with something better, with something more aligned with who you are becoming. It doesn't mean it has to be perfect and that it can never change or never evolve again, but you're giving yourself an opportunity to do those things. And, the power of your words is something I often talk about because I really love it. The first time I heard the power of your words and breathing life or death into something, obviously, like most of us, was the Christian Bible. But growing up into an adult and doing my own exploration and understanding spirituality and connecting with myself and learning that my body is the temple, my body is my house, and how sacred and powerful our voice is and how we do create. And it's not just from that source in the Bible, but it's rich in spirituality. Sacred geometry, symbols, every word, thought, like all of it is connected to something so much greater. So when we give ourselves an opportunity to connect with ourselves, to know ourselves, and to dig deeper into that, and don't let it become a distraction where you detach from the world around you, right? But really tap into that knowing and then go share it with the world and allow yourself to flow, allow yourself to make mistakes and change and evolve. And when you do that, with that knowing behind it, with that intention behind it, right? When you come up against resistance or when you come up against people who don't understand your vision, your dreams, the way that you're showing up, the way that you're living life, you're not easily moved because you have done the work. Most people don't want to do the work. Most people don't want to challenge their beliefs or their values, especially if their caregivers are the ones who place them in themselves. So I challenge you, write down a list, because a lot of people who book discovery calls with me are seeking for their purpose or seeking healing or things of that nature, right? And that's beautiful. I love to help people. I love to assist. And yes, I have a bunch of modalities that I use, but the power resides within each and every single one of us. Right? If I give you the blueprint to do the things, but you don't do the things, it's not very useful, is it? So understand, right? And you can write this down. I do this every, I don't know, maybe 3 months, every 4 months, just to see where I am. You can write down your values. Like, what are your values and why are they your values? Are they your values because you actually value that? Or is it because a caregiver imprinted on you and said that that was supposed to be important, right? And then write down your passion. So list of values, list of whatever you're passionate about, human rights. I don't know, passions can be so huge. Art, taking care of other people, helping other people in some way, or being of service, or fashion, or, activating someone to create or be, or whatever it is, right? So you have your values laid out and you understand why they are your values. Okay. Then you have your passions. And then write down your talents or your skills or your gifts, however you want to label it. What are your talents, skills, gifts? And I want to just emphasize here that your gifts could be compassion. It could be singing. It could be, activating something within someone else in a way that allows them to go initiate something greater for themselves. It could be that you're a great seamstress. It could be anything, right? And then you're going to look at these 3 rows and you're going to kind of dissect that, right? And it's easier to do if you do this with someone who can hold space with you. If you do this list and you book a discovery call, I can help you with it. But looking at these three columns, you can then say, okay, where can I show up to fulfill my purpose in a way that feels really good? Right? And I'm pausing because I want you guys to think about this. Because as you look at these 3 columns and as you're asking yourself deeper questions, like, I'm putting this down, am I really passionate about human rights, or am I passionate about it because someone else led me to it and I think I should be? It's a should be passion, right? All very valid questions. But this will help lead you to a branch of your purpose. Your purpose is ever evolving, just like you. And then from there, you really can breathe life into what you create with intention, with love, with support. And I think that that is the most beautiful thing, because then you can say, what story got me to this purpose? And start sharing that story. You understand? If you have questions, leave them in the comments, but I want for you to be able to walk yourself down that path. I want for you to be able to say, this is what I'm doing, and this is the journey that it took to get me here, and know that you're going to relate that story to someone else who is waiting in quiet desperation, like I said before, waiting for permission to show up, to share, to create, to be. You have so much power and magic within you when you just make the choice to tap into it. So with this year, this new year, like right here, coming in a couple of days, right? Tap into this and just try to understand, like, if I, like where you are today, if you look back at where you were 6 weeks ago, 6 months ago, what did you need to hear to get you there? To this point, what would have helped you get to where you are today? What would have inspired you to get here? Maybe skipping some painful lessons, maybe feeling supported, maybe, just guiding someone through that. I want for you to consider that. And then as you create the story, the narrative that you share with people in your life, in your business, in whatever field you wish to share it, understand that as you continue to evolve, that story, that narrative is going to continue to evolve. Like how I share my evolution from being on active duty to being the founder of Soulpreneur Life and being an Akashic Records healer and working with Egyptian Reiki and just all of these different things that I do now. Oh my word. How I first told that story to how I tell it now is completely different, and the feelings in my body that I feel or don't feel now are completely different, because there's healing that happens and intentionality and sending love to that scenario. I love that version of me that was painful and toxic, because she got me to where I am today. So every time I talk about something, I make sure that when I retell it, if I talk about myself and I emphasize, hey, I was really toxic in this period, I also let myself know, and I'm grateful for that experience because it got me to where I am today. I'm grateful for that survival mode. I'm grateful for the ego that protected me. I'm grateful for all of these other things, right? Because it's a part of the process, and acknowledging that is a part of it. It's a part of the magic. I don't want to shame myself, and you shouldn't want to shame yourself for the experiences that got you where you are. So let me know if this was helpful. I know it was slow starting in the beginning. I was hoping more of you would have jumped on. No big deal. Let me know what you think, what you feel, what your questions are, and how that activity of writing out those 3 columns works for you. I would love feedback. And if you guys would like more or similar kind of things like this, just let me know in the comments, and I look forward to seeing y'all again soon. It looks like the next time I'm going to see you is probably the new year, my birthday month, January. So I will talk to you all soon, and I hope that you all have a wonderful new year and a safe holiday.